Okay, so timelines. We are going to jump into timelines here for our fall sports. And I think it's key for us to just remember the word flexibility this year. With COVID-19, a lot of things change daily, and we need to be aware that that could happen with our activities as well. We have been working with area schools and the health department in Grant County, and the WIAA joins in on meetings as well to talk about the plan for the fall. But I do, again, want to stress, I'm going to share with you what our plan is for the fall sports as of today, but you need to know that they could change tomorrow based on data around COVID, as well as what happens with area schools and how our conference decides to move forward. So our timeline for fall sports at this point would be that August 17th, cross country and girls golf would start. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have the meeting today, as we've had planned for months. This was always going to be our activities code meeting. And we wanted to make sure to have this meeting so that we are able to move forward with those sports starting August 17th. Football and volleyball are set to start on September 7th. So September 7th. So that has been delayed for the purpose of getting into school, getting school started, and then having those more contact-like sports beginning at that point. So just know that is the timeline. Coaches will be contacting you. If you have not shared your cell phone number with the office, we would really like you to do that. And we're, most parents, we have you in Power School, we're good. But some of the students, if you could share your cell phone number with our school office, we would have you in Power School, and then your coaches are able to send you messages around events and things that are coming up too. We send them to parents, but we could also then easily send them to the students, where you would get a text right to your phone. So just know there's a lot of benefits of that for the school having that cell phone number in our system. So if you are able to get that into school to Pam, that would be wonderful. Again, I want to stress the importance of flexibility this year. As I shared, we want to do activities the best we can to be as safe as possible. And just know that we will have to follow suit with what's happening around us so we can try to do what's best for our students. And as I said, what we have planned today could change tomorrow, but we wanted to get this information to you so that we are ready to start those sports that are coming up here pretty soon. And we're crossing our fingers that we're able to do that, and we'll just see what occurs from there. So the next part of the meeting today is we are going to watch a video. This is snippets from last year with important messages from Mr. Holzheimer that don't necessarily change from year to year, that revolve around our code. So I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to watch a video for a portion of the time tonight. So listen carefully, and athletes, please listen to the messages that are shared in this video, and we will be back together in a moment. So listen carefully and jot down any questions you may have that we could answer at the conclusion of the meeting.
I want to open tonight with a particular consideration. It is something that I've heard many coaches talk about to their teams, their players. I've heard it spoken about at clinics, conferences, read about it in different forms of literature, and it's the consideration of what is your role? Where do you fit in? This applies to many areas of life, whether it's home, work, community, clubs we're involved in, what we volunteer to do, and certainly the teams that we're on. Our role isn't always obvious. Sometimes it comes to us at unexpected times. They weren't planned. We often hear credit given to success that occurred because certain individuals maintained their role or knew what that role was and fulfilled it. It's often defined because we recognize where we fit. Sometimes that's tougher to identify for, especially to us when we're younger. Some of us rely on others to direct us in those roles and those responsibilities. Most of us find that your roles change as you develop skills and earn experience. So I want you, as students, parents, coaches, to think about this upcoming year and what your role is going to be. Where do you fit in? If you're not sure, think about who are the people that are going to help you to find it. And that all starts here today with the goals that you want to achieve. If you haven't defined those yet. And there are some people here that will help you get there, or maybe even just get started. One of the most prominent posters you see in schools and rec facilities nowadays states a few things pretty clearly. Coaches coach, players play, officials officiate, fans cheer and support. Those are pretty definitive roles. And while those lines are blurred often, we have to be cognizant of that and know where we fit in and what our role is for success. We work to provide the best opportunities for our students, whether it's in the classroom, contests, or in competition. So please think about what your role is and help out in the most positive way you can. That way we can all work to achieve the same goals. Tonight, we've got to cover a few things. We want to discuss our code of conduct, our athletic code, facility use, our chain of communication. We're going to talk about forms and documents. Hopefully we'll all have taken care of before we leave tonight to make sure that all of our student athletes are ready to go for their first day of the season. One of the things that took place last year in addition to the district was what's known as Eye in the Sky. And right up there on the wall behind you, there is a camera that we utilize to live stream events that happen here in the gymnasium. We also used this last year out on the football field for football games, and working with the Booster Club. This is a service that is provided free of charge through the website so that people who can't make events, maybe you've got relatives that would like to come, maybe it's just weather related in the winter, that service is there and you can access that online. It's pretty handy. Having not been growing up in the area, it was nice to let grandparents know that they could watch the kids in different events as they were going through school. This year you'll have the ability to pay for certain things in the office through eFunds. There's a link on the school website. You'll be able to utilize that. There is a small service charge with that, but it will be something that you can utilize to pay different funds through the office. Something that's not new, but certainly constantly evolving is social media. And for those of you that are utilizing social media, please keep in mind, we always work with our students and athletes to remind them to be cognizant and aware of what's happening. Anything you put out there is always available and is a record for something. So try to stay positive and goal-oriented when you're posting and responding to different things out there. One of the things in our code book is our eligibility, and one of the confusions that happens constantly is how grade eligibility is determined. As you read through our athletic code and the student handbook, please make sure to note when we talk about eligibility that we base that off of quarter grades. That gets confusing after the second quarter or after the fourth quarter because we also have semester grades at that time. Quarter grades are what determine eligibility for activities and athletics. So please keep that in mind throughout the year. Our athletic code covers a lot of different things, whether it's policies, eligibility, procedures, code of conduct. It is very extensive. It would take me a long time to walk you through all of that. It is available online. If you need a paper copy of that, we can get that to you. Please let me know afterwards. It is the expectation that all of our students go through the student handbook with a parent or guardian and then sign off that you've done that. That way we're all familiar with the policies that we're following and we're on the same page as to what the expectations are. If you have questions about that at any time, especially if it's involving the athletic code, please contact myself. If you check with the coach and didn't get an answer you need, we'll talk more about that here shortly. Our facilities, we're continually working to provide the best facilities that we can. One of the current changes, we're working to update safety and security in our district. In addition to that, we're working to best accommodate the needs, not only of our programs here, but also of the community. We do utilize a service online known as RSCHOOL. There's a calendar affiliated with that. And we use that not only to keep track of the different schedules with sports and clubs and practices, but also how our facilities are being used. Please, especially if you're involved in youth sports, pay close attention in the next couple months, especially when there's meetings for volunteer coaches as to how you can find out when there's gym availability. Currently, myself and Mr. Ryan Wooden, the middle school athletic director, are going to be scheduling facility use for the gym for both the round school and the high school here. So direct those inquiries to us. Hopefully we can continue to make that more convenient and more accessible to everybody. One of the other things I mentioned earlier was chain of communication. Having experience as a head coach and as an assistant coach, this is an area of emphasis for me. I think it allows our programs to thrive. It allows our student athletes to be familiar with their role and to start to learn advocacy for themselves. When I talk about our chain of communication, it starts with our head coaches. We ask that each sport has a student or a sport-specific handbook. We like to make those available, whether it's at a players' meeting. Sometimes those happen in the spring. Sometimes they're with the fall season coming. Some have already occurred. Coaches may make those available, whether it's in a hard copy. They may go through it on the first day of practice. They may make them available online. If you're not sure where that's located, please have your child ask if they don't have it. They may already have it in their hands, maybe in the backseat of their car, maybe in their locker or folder. Ask them first. If they don't have any awareness of it, then please reach out to either the office or to one of the coaches for that information. Those sport-specific handbooks do not replace our athletic code. They work cooperatively with it. If there are questions, check there first. If not, then follow that chain of communication that I'm going to go through with you next. If your son or daughter has a question about what is going on in that particular sport, the first thing that should happen is the athlete should communicate with their coach. It's the hardest thing to do. As having grown up and played sports, been involved in activities, having parents that maybe weren't as involved as others, having been a parent here in this community, having been a coach at many different levels, I know it's difficult. It's difficult for most kids, especially when you have to approach somebody who you feel has a position of power over something you're doing. One of the probably biggest goals as a coach is to have students and athletes be comfortable and be trusting enough to approach their coaches with concerns. It's a big step, and it's not always easy, but it is an important one. Please encourage your child to do that first. That should be the first step. Certainly we want them communicating with you, and we want them to involve you in this process, but that step is the first one that should occur. Without that, the coach may not even be aware. The second step, if you feel that your child has done that, then we ask that parents do reach out to coaches. Be familiar with the coaches. Get involved. Try to do it as positively as you can. A lot of times these situations don't come up until somebody perceives a problem. There may not be a problem at all. It may just be miscommunication or lack of communication. That's what we want to identify. We ask that you be cognizant of when you approach a coach about a concern. Coming off the floor or off the field of competition isn't the right time to do that. We do ask that you wait, whether it's a 24-hour rule. Some coaches will ask for that. They'll talk about that with their meetings. Or maybe it's just wait till that next day. In the heat of the moment, as a coach, sometimes it's very tough to shift gears right after a competition. They may share some of the same concerns that you have. They may not have had time to evaluate those just yet. So we ask that you be aware of that. Coming into a practice, a lot of coaches have open policies. They may invite you in. They may say you're welcome to come watch any practice you want. But during that practice or immediately after may not be the best time to get your concern met. Keep that communication as open as possible. Maybe send that email first and ask to set up an appointment. When you do want to meet with a coach, please plan on having your child with. If they're not there, that perspective and that concern may not be getting fully expressed. You and the coach may look at each other and say something, and the coach may be thinking, well, I thought you already knew this. And you may be thinking the same thing through. We want to avoid any misturns that are there. That open communication is necessary. So if you're going to request a meeting with a coach, plan on having your child there with you. If after that you feel that things haven't been met, if maybe things aren't resolved, or maybe there's just still an understanding that's not met, please take that to the next step of contacting myself or Mrs. Olson, the principal. We will help you take any further steps that may be. Maybe we will work to negotiate a time to work together and come to an understanding. Don't expect that we're going to say, no, we'll just change that decision or that rule. Likely we're going to support the coaches in their decisions and try to help you come to an understanding with that. If you still don't feel that you've gotten to what you need, that answer that you need, the last step would be to address Mr. Olson and then through the school board. We hope that things don't ever get to that point. But that is the chain of communication that we need to follow. Athlete to coach, parent and athlete to coach, parent, athlete, coach, activities director, principal, and then to the top of the chain. So please keep those things in mind. What things might they be? Some appropriate concerns that you might address with the coach. Maybe the mental or physical treatment of your child. Certainly that's a legitimate concern and one you can't wait on. Again, please make sure that your child is communicating those thoughts and feelings. Again, it could just be miscommunication. Ways to help your child improve. Those are great things for athletes to communicate with their coaches. What can I do to get better? Concerns about your child's behavior. Maybe something's changed for you and you're not sure. As a coach, I know I appreciate that open communication because maybe I'm seeing something too. Working together, we may be able to help them. Academic issues, maybe some personal issues. Some things not appropriate to discuss with coaches, playing time. It's generally not a negotiable thing. Like I said, we have coaches in place that are very caring, concerned, and experienced. They've spent a lot of time making evaluations. That's what practices are for. That's what scrimmages are for them to make those determinations. As a parent, I know it doesn't always go the way I wanted it to for my son or daughter. But I have to be trusting in that process. And I have to support them through that. Team strategy, play calling, again, those are things we've entrusted our coaches to do. We may not always agree with it. We may not always understand it. But we have to trust that they're in the position they're in for that. Other student athletes, don't come in and say, well, what about this kid? We're not at liberty to discuss that with you as coaches. That's something we have to work with that student, that parent. Each of us has our own unique individual situation, so we can't make decisions in comparison. Keep those things in mind. Our coaches have spent much time, whether it's watching film, making those evaluations to make the best decisions. So a lot of those things aren't negotiable. Yes, we would love to hear your concerns, because it may lead to that question of, well, what can my child do to get better? Hopefully your child has already asked that question before you. And hopefully they've been open with you about it. We've maintained a high quality of athletic and activity achievement here at Cuba City High School, and it's because we've had good people in place. We look to continue that. We're going to trust in their expertise. Get to know them, get comfortable with them, and encourage your son or daughter to do the same. Before you go tonight, we have a lot of things that need to make sure that they're in or that you're aware of before your specific season starts. Sports fees. We have a 3-season facility. For your first sports season, activity fees are for $50. For a second sport, $25. For a third sport, $15. That has to be taken care of before participation happens. There are situations, if those expenses aren't affordable, please stop in the office. Communicate with Julie or Pam. There is a situation, if someone qualifies for free or reduced lunch, fees can be waived. We encourage you, if you're not sure, to fill those out. It is all confidential. It is all discreet. Coaches do not have privy to that information. It is kept in the office. But please do attend to that. It makes a big difference, not only for you, but for the district. So know that is there. Physical forms. We have physical forms, an alternate year form that need to be completed. Generally, our freshmen and juniors have to do the physical form. Our sophomores and seniors will do the alternate card. These forms are very specific. They are issued by the WIAA. If you just go to the doctor's office, especially if you're going to Iowa, they may not have these forms on file, and they may fill something out for you that's a physical form, and you'll bring it in here, and we can't accept it. We'll give you one of these and say, please take this back and have them transfer that information over. So if you haven't done that yet, please make sure that gets taken care of. Again, can't have you participating until these are taken care of. Alternate year cards just require a signature from a parent or guardian. Physical forms require a physician or physician assistant signature. Medical emergency forms, these are in triplicate. These are used to provide coaches with emergency information on your son or daughter. First season, they'll pull off one of the sheets. Coaches keep that with them in case when they're traveling, they need to get in touch with you. Be as specific as possible with the information you put on here. If you can't be reached, who do you want contacted? If a coach has to make a decision, keep that in mind. They'll want to know where do you have preference if we're local for a hospital. That information goes on here to share with them. They go to this first to find out if there is need. Signature sheet. This one's important. It covers a lot of different things. You'll note that it has a spot for the student name and signature, and also a parent, guardian name and signature. That sheet is signing off for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure that you've read the literature that is available to you. The athletic code, student handbook, information on concussion protocol. All of those things are available on our website. Again, if you don't have access to that, stop in the office, let me know tonight, we'll make sure that you get a copy of it. That signature sheet is required before participation can happen. So please make sure that those are done. Our school today, I mentioned that earlier, online, we want to make sure that we're utilizing that as much as possible. You can get notifications to your cell phone, to your email addresses about weather-related changes, scheduling changes. You can have access to all sports schedules on there. There's a convenient area for you to check which sports you would like to be notified of. That way you know of any changes that happen here at the high school. I do believe that the middle school uses that also. So you can do it all at once. There is a link on the school website. There is also an instruction page located with all these other forms. You go to the school website, go to the high school page, go to sports, they'll all be listed there for you. If you have troubles, contact the office, we'll get you in touch with them.
All right. So Mr. Holzheimer shared many things from last year that are pertinent again this year. And we want to just stress those items, such as the chain of command, how important open communication is, and trust within what your children are a part of. And then how important it is to make sure to read the information within the student handbook and those different pieces. So I want to just stress and share the pieces around those forms that you actually need to turn in before your child begins in whatever activity they plan to be a part of. And so, as Mr. Holzheimer stated in the video, you either need the green one in or the yellow one in order to be able to participate. So if your child is going to be in a fall sport, so if it's cross country or girls golf, those have to be in before August 17th. And if it's football or volleyball, they have to be in by September 7th. And then otherwise, any other activities that we have, they just need to be in before that activity begins. They will not be able to practice until those are in the office, actually physically in the office. And then we also have the activities fee, which you can come and pay in the office, or you could do that online. So if any of you need a hard copy of any of those items, please let us know in the office and we will get a hard copy for you and make sure that you have what you need around that information so you can check with that as well. So within Power School, when you guys go into Power School to fill out these forms, as you can tell, we are obviously going with most forms in eCollect, which as you go into your parent side of Power School, you'll be able to access these forms. And I just want to reiterate what the 3 forms are that you must have filled out before your child can participate. And the first one is the signature form for high school. Now this form that you are signing, when you sign this form, you are agreeing to the student handbook, which includes the activities code, and that you have read the Wisconsin fact sheet for athletics on concussions, the Wisconsin fact sheet for parents on concussions, the WIAA banned substances, and the WIAA high school eligibility form. So please read those, and then you'll be able to sign that signature form for high school. We also have the emergency contact form, which is another form in eCollect. And you also have the health information or emergency permission. So those are the 3 forms in eCollect that need to be filled out prior to being able to participate in a practice. And then the fee, as I said, it could be done online. If you choose to do the fee online through eFunds, if you use an electronic check or debit, there is a $1 charge for that. And if you use a credit card, it's a percentage charge. So it depends on how much of a payment it is, and you'll be charged. So use the credit card fee for that is higher, just so you know, than what the $1 fee would be. But you have that option, or you can bring that payment in with the physical form that you're turning in. So other things around this that I think are important to share, those of you that have been coming in for the summer, so your summer guidelines that many high school students have experienced, just please know that we followed summer guidelines from the WIA on that. We will be receiving, we believe, new guidelines for the fall. The way the guidelines are now, it would be very difficult to start a sport like volleyball or football. So we are in the near future looking for what those guidelines will look like for those contact sports. So just know it may not look exactly the same as what it has been since July 1 when we've been able to use the facilities. Also know that communication will be coming out just for all parents on and students that around a pandemic guidebook around school starting in general. Know that we've been working on that as an admin team and including many stakeholders, and that communication will be coming out in the near future. And I just can't stress enough, really watch for communication from your coaches. So from your coaches, make sure you watch for communication. And at this time, all the coaches that are on, if you would just show your picture and wave so the students can see that many of our coaches are present tonight. And I want to thank them for all that they do and their planning. Planning is going to look different this year, especially in these initial sports. And they work really hard to make it an experience that our students will remember. And it's going to be interesting, and we just really ask for flexibility from our students and our parents and understanding around we're going to do what we can to get our students participating in activities in as safe as a way, as safe as possible. And then I just want to stress that it is going to be quite the year. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Please reach out to the office if you have any questions around any of these topics. And then Ms. Lawson will be sharing information as it comes and once she is officially in the role. So as questions come up, just make sure to shoot them our way. We are here to support you and to help you with anything that comes up around any type of activity as far as school is concerned. And we know there will be questions. So we are here to answer those questions. And before we sign off tonight, if anybody has questions they would like to ask, you sure can do that. Otherwise, we are done with the code meeting for the 2020 school year. And again, around those e-collect forms, that's the important piece, is getting those forms turned in so that you are ready to participate in our upcoming fall sports. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Pam and I will stay on. So if you do have questions, we can answer those questions for you before you sign off.
Mrs. Olson, I do have one thing to say. In the Bright Arrow that you all received, there was a Google form attached. If you could please complete that. Any coaches that are on that do not have children also watching, could you send me an email just to let me know that you viewed? Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pam.